On the night of June 3rd, 2017, the Dragons' roster was, for the first time, truly solidified. Led into battle by veteran quarterback Marcus Littlejohn, the Dragons' offense consisted of outside receivers Wyatt Rogers and Brandon Ford and slot men Quan Bristol and Dakota Arrowwood, who split time going over the middle of the field. Supplementing them was dual threat fullback Davon He-Man Gardner, and protecting all of them was the Dragons' offensive line, which consisted of Brandon Bingham, Devin Latta, and Jack Gardner. He-Man, Devin, and Jack were the team's only three Iron Men in the sense that they played both offense and defense. The team's secondary and linebacker cores were there exclusively to stop other offenses and did a great job of it. Whereas Mark was the leader on offense, safety Dante Johnson was in control of the defense. He was supplemented on the outside by field corner Jabari Wright Sr. and boundary corner Anthony Quillis, who, for this particular game, swapped places with Jack linebacker Jonathan Andrews. In the middle of everything was Mac linebacker Antoine LeGrune, who spent his time giving quarterbacks headaches both as a coverage man and as a pass rusher. And there you have it, the Dragons' 2017 roster. They didn't win the game they played on June 3rd, but they'd gotten the time they needed to develop their chemistry and seemed to be over that beginner's hump. They were playing well enough to go out and win their next game, no doubt, but there was just one problem. There wasn't a next game. The game on the 3rd, the Dragons' 5th as a franchise, that was the end of their season. But still, there's always next year. And not to mention, these guys will have an entire off-season, almost 9 months, to become even more adept at their positions. They'll go out there in 2018 and just dominate. Well, that's just speculation. We'll never know what the 2017 Dragons would have looked like if they'd played a 6th game. We'll never even get close. The 2018 off-season was, to say the least, quite hectic for the Dragons. The chaos began when all-star safety Dante Johnson announced that he'd signed with the Iowa Barnstormers, and then retired to Hawaii some 2 weeks later. Anthony Quillis followed Dante into the world of retirement to go raise a family, and Brandon Bingham followed him. Brandon Ford left due to logistical reasons, and Jonathan Andrews signed with the High Country Grizzlies. Jack Gardner disappeared without much warning and then resurfaced with the Carolina Energy about a month later. Fellow lineman Devin Latta followed him there after the first tryout on account of logistical issues, and Quan Bristol left the team due to personal reasons and then was spotted with the Carolina Cowboys in Rochester. Dakota Arrowwood suffered a non-football injury and won't be playing for the foreseeable future. Just over a week ago, Marcus Littlejohn was released. And just 2 days before the Dragons' home opener, Antoine LeGrune and Jabari Wright Sr. were abruptly scratched in favor of rookies Marlon Marshall and Rochelle Peebles, respectively. So, there's some rebuilding to do. But how should one go about it? Well, fortunately the Dragons managed to get a few folks back. Brandon Bingham enjoyed playing indoors too much to retire and came back to the team in January. Jonathan Andrews was released by the Grizzlies and made it back to the Upstate just a few days later, and on the cusp of Quan's departure, Brandon Ford resurfaced as well. So now there's 6 Dragons left, but where does one go from here? It was at this point that the team rebuild split in two and took on a pair of different philosophies. The offense rebuild was predicated on revitalization, and the defensive rebuild was predicated on replication. It wasn't hard to figure out that happened either. The offense, which averaged only 17 points per game, needed a new start, and the defense, which only gave up 27 points per game, needed to be emulated. Likewise, the players that have come in this year on the defensive side are markedly similar to those that preceded them, while the offense is, officially now, full of new talents and, perhaps more notably, new playing styles. It was hard-fought and dramatic and chaotic and elongated, but now training camp is officially over and the team's roster is all but set in stone. California-based quarterback Shane Martinez came 2,500 miles across the country and didn't have any ambitions of going back home empty-handed, leading to his winning the starting quarterback job in what was perhaps the single most drama-filled position battle in all of the AAL. At the start of the second week of training camp, fellow quarterback Lorenz Steffen moved the receiver without much context and was among the team's first round of cuts. 2017 veteran Mark Littlejohn was also a victim of the receiver effect and suffered the exact same fate as Lorenz, just a bit later than the former quarterback did. The two quarterbacks that never took any snaps at any other positions, Shane and newfound talent Jonathan Kings Mountain Clark, are the only two that remain at this point, though barring some sort of injury, Shane will be the man under center on March 31st. He'll be protected full-time by an offensive line once again anchored by tight end Brandon Bingham, who will lead his fellow linemen Julian Wright and Bishop Wallace into battle with him. All linemen and He-Man have been taken off the team's Iron Man list and will only be playing one side of the ball this year, allowing them to focus on protecting Shane full-time. Now, of course, the quarterback can't do much if he doesn't have anyone to throw to, though interestingly enough, the team's receiving core hasn't really changed all that much. Brandon Ford and Wyatt Rogers are still set to work the outside of the field, though they've swapped positions. This year, Wyatt is the team's official motion man rather than Ford. Supplementing them inside is Shane's new favorite target, none other than the ever-shifty and speedy Jerron Moore. Veteran receiver Michael Lee Sr. will sub in and out when need be, and together the four of them make up one of the sneakiest and most versatile receiving cores in all the league. On the other side of the ball, a speedy defensive line looks to anchor everything down and make life miserable for any quarterback they come across. The monstrous Antoine Mims is going in at nose to take care of the league's centers, while edge rushers George Wilson and Eb Covington look to burn the league's offensive tackles. Joseph Reed and Jared Holbrooks will see some time on the line as well. That edge spot at this point in time is still pretty contested. When he blitzes, rookie MAC linebacker Marlon Marshall set to take care of any halfbacks and fullbacks that get in his way, and converted receiver Cody Haney set to spy quarterbacks and guard the flats at the jack linebacker spot. He'll also be receiving and relaying defensive play calls from coordinator Anthony Galloway. At the three DB positions, there's been some shaking up, and a lot of it. Greg Covington, Jabari Bryant Sr., and Lance Jackson, the starters I referenced in the last episode, are all out of the picture. Taking their places are 2017 veteran Jack linebacker Jonathan Andrews at boundary corner, Rochelle Peebles at field corner, and Daniel Walker II at safety. Andrews will be looked to as the group's, quote, leader for the time being by way of his experience, though Daniel and Rochelle have held their own just fine so far. Rochelle with his shiftiness, and Daniel with his unprecedented 6'3" stature. And now, those 8 men, along with defensive coordinator Anthony Galloway, DB's coach Nicholas Weidman, assistant DB's coach Mike Donald, and linebackers coach David Phillips, are ready to go into battle and stop any arena football offense they may come against. It'll be their valiant efforts, combined with an offense that hopes to be averaging 80 points per game by week 4, that'll have to come through to lead the Dragons to victory on Saturday night in a grudge match against the newly rebranded Austin Wild. The two teams haven't seen each other for a solid 7 months, and that's plenty of time to get things changed up. All either team has to go by is film from 2017, and neither one's sure of how accurate that is anymore. They and the entire world will find out come Saturday night, though, in a game that could be either a shootout or a defensive standoff, but, by all measures, will be very, very hard fought.